we got quite a disturbance and a lot of this violence, murders, drive-bys, you name it. And just recently we've heard from one of our network partners that they had something terrible to happen up in Buffalo, New York. And as Buffalo, as we talk about, it doesn't really matter anymore about what cities these people are hitting. Who's behind it? Who's doing it and why? But on the same token, we're trying to locate the people of the Greater Kansas City Community Gardens. They, I guess, or you would say, they're really doing a grand because they bought out of everything. You go there for the plants. They even ran out of Scott and our. They ran out of the chicken manure that they use to fertilize the plants. Okay.
Man.
They got a back order on that.
Well, I guess it's from the back of the chickens, I suppose, so it could be a back order.
And you own your motorcycle too, right?
That's right.
No. I think MC right down, our country as a whole is facing a shortage of pretty much everything that's essential, and one of the very much things that's essential to our country and to our families, is the food that our babies eat when they're first born. I was around MC. We were breastfeeding in those days, but I know that my kids being born, we had Similac and stuff like that. But nowadays, there's a shortage of infant milk, you name it. In most cases, they just don't have it anymore.
Yeah, I know. And then they got these people, you go back to, I guess, your chemists, your people there, they create a different thing, or they say what's good for them is good for you, and whatever you can get out of the plant is good for everybody to eat or drink or what have you. And it's just, I don't know. And then you got different, when we're talking about plants, we're talking about vegetables, we're talking about meat, we're talking about, and a lot of other countries, that's where we get that from. Like they say over there where they're having the problems over with Russia trying to take over again, that particular country, they supply almost how many percentage of the world supplying wheat and stuff like that?
Well, as you know, the chickens eat, they got to eat, and wheat is probably one of the things, okay, that they're fed, but I will say this, MC, what we are facing now, is our awakening and a tragic thing to happen, because when you have getting other people to supply stuff for you, this is what happens, and right now China is one of the main suppliers of most things that we buy nowadays, made in China. Well, unfortunately, here's an update for you. The country of China is on lockdown in most of the larger cities from COVID-19. Although we're doing better here, matter of fact, Shanghai, which is about 25 million people in that city, if they're on lockdown, that means people can't go to work. That means the factories are closed. So the economy is doing bad right now, and if their economy does bad, that carries over to what we can get from all the factories over there.
Well, that's true, and just like we say about China, and but then we have all these terrible things they say is created in China, but then they are what? No, I think India might have more people than population than China. Is that true yet, or is that on its way to be?
No, I can find out real quick. One thing that we're having, though, a lot of problems with is a lot of these food processing companies are actually burning down over the last few months. Let's see here.
When you say burning down, is that by arson? Or is that...
That's by fire.
Okay.
Whether it's arson or not, that's not for me to decide. But a lot of these food processing plants are being destroyed in the last few months by various reasons.
Well, when you say various reasons, could you be a little bit more clearer than that? Is this because of the fires that are taking place in like they say, California, where things are burning up because of wildfire and things like that,
Well,
or this man-made type of fires?
well, from what I understand, it's more man-made. I mean, airplanes crashing into food processing plants, etc., so forth.
So you're going back to 9/11, huh?
No, this is within the last year.
What I'm saying, the crashing planes into deals. That's what that was.
No, they had a plane crash into a food processing plant.
Okay, what I was saying, I know what you're saying, but I just recall the days of 9/11.
Oh, I remember those.
Yeah, that's why I made mention too.
I remember those, yep. But I think this is more specific than that.
But you see, another thing taking place here, a lot of processing plants were affected by COVID-19, where, you know, a lot of meat plants and all those, because a lot of the COVID-19 ravaged, I use the word ravaged, not too likely, that their workers, unfortunately, they had to shut down the amount of precautions. Matter of fact, COVID was all through those type of plants. And even right now, one of the main suppliers of these baby products is now shut down. But they're saying they're trying to rebuild it. It'll take them about 90 days or more for them to produce. And so just about our last hour or so ago, the Congresswoman said next week they're introducing a bill to import. See, one of the problems sometimes when you have only one supplier just supplying something to you, if they have the hiccups and something goes wrong, that affects, and that's what's taking place now. We were depending on that fact now present. We have maybe four or five chicken plants, that produces most of our poultry for us. And so now when they have issues, and that can be all type of issues, it could be health issues, it could be supply issues, and also we would be remiss if we didn't mention the fact that trucking is trying to get things to people nowadays, transportation wise. That we have a shortage of drivers who have to be on the highway getting it to us. So there's a lot of things going on now that never took place before. And you want to say the perfect storm. The United States is going through a perfect storm of being too endowed with too many good things going for us now. And people, you've never heard them say, what goes up must come down. Well, right now we're on that downward slope right now.
Let's see if we can get Ben again on the phone. And Scott, continue talking. What I wonder about that, we're talking about the poultry placement. When we think about chickens, we think of Tyson chickens, okay? That's one of the front runners in that.
And they've been
but what about in the water, the sea? Why aren't the fish affected by this when they have all this disturbance and diseases above the water?
Fish have their own issues, but you're right. They don't seem, at least on the surface, to be the industry doesn't seem to be as fixed as problematic as the land creatures. By the way, you asked about the population in China versus India. In mid 2021, China was at 1,412.3 million people, and India was very close behind at 1,393,000,000 people. So India is catching up, and they say that it'll be before 2027 that India is more populated than China.
Well, another thing, I don't know, we say India, we say Asia, what have you, and I was talking to this one doctor, he's from Pakistan, and then he first said he's from, I said, what part of India are you from? The northern India or southern India?
Mm-hmm.
But these different countries, and then they say Asia, even said the Philippines, they consider themselves Asian.
Well, yes.
Listen, one problem, that in China, there was a law there that you could only have two children per household. And so they were slowing their population down. but a couple of years ago they kind of changed that law. Now they can have any people they want. So right now China is aware of the fact that they're losing population. And so now because they need more people, which we all do. So
yes, boys were more valued than girls, so
That's true.
basically they cut themselves off by killing a lot of the girls that were born and cycling so that only boys were being born for a while, but they've gotten rid of that. So yeah, maybe China will come back and be even more than India.
Well, we're talking about, I deal with the Midwest Southeast region, up in Montana, they were saying like on those Indian reservations, that could be North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Utah,
Oklahoma,
what have you.
Yeah.
There seemed to be quite murder, you might say, of killing Indian women. And I was supposed to get that on a printout on Facebook to have in time of September, but they seem to be killing the women. Now, back in the biblical days, they were saying a male or boy child was more precious than a female child, although the female child that reproduced would help from the male to have more children.
Well, MC, I won't go into that too deeply, but we happen to have our guest list again on the telephone.
Well, we're going to have to put them down on lockdown. Ben?
Yeah.
Okay, we done covered your whole show, man. All those things you didn't think we were going to say about you, we already did that, but we'll let you clean it up. First of all, tell the people who you are and who you represent. This is not your first time on Guess Who's Coming to Kansas. Oh, let me get this right. Coming to Kansas City, but a lot of people said they wanted to tune in and hear what you have to say. We was talking about the problem, the shortage of thing, even on chicken manure. You guys seem to have been doing such a good job, we don't even have manure to fertilize our plants.
Yeah, I don't think we have a big problem with that. Right now, it's just taking a little time to get it.
Why is that more of a better fertilizer than what we used to do with cow chips and regular, cow chips or whatever? We have those, what we use for fertilizer. And then a lot of people use sheep for fertilizer, different thing. But heretofore, I think the last 2 or 3 years or out to the gardens, they've been had an abundance of, we use chicken manure. How does that work as compared to the other manure that people used to use?
It's a little bit, we think it's a little bit better fertilizer. We get it a lot. It's easy for us to buy that because there's so much, chicken egg production. It's fairly easy to get, and it's fairly easy for them to collect. So that's why it works good for us with an organic fertilizer.
What we're going to do, we got our folks in St. Louis, we got Mr. Scott in Ferguson, 2 different cities very closely. And what we want to do, we want to talk about, everybody seems to be going to community gardens. And they're getting away from their own organic type garden. And you guys have been doing this for years and been very successful. And I used to think that collard green was a southern dish till I found out they eat collard greens all over the world. They might have different seasonings. But tell us about your program out there and how it's come to be one of the most successful garden centers, we'll say, in the Midwest.
Yeah, so our mission is to help low-income families to grow food in community groups. We've been doing that now for over 35 years. We try and provide the things that people need to garden, things like seeds, vegetable plants, fertilizer, all very low cost. And we also make space for people to garden. We have places where people can rent garden plots because not everybody has the space. So we're just trying to do everything we can to make it affordable for people.
I'd like to bring the other 2 gentlemen in so we make this a joint conversation because they probably have some ideas or some questions too. So since you waited a little while before we get on, we're going to make you pay for it by answering all these questions they're going to ask you.
All right.
Well, first of all, Ben, one of the basic first things that a person would need is to start, how would a person get started in a community garden?
There's just different kinds of community gardens. So some of them are where people are working together to grow food for a special purpose, like maybe for a food pantry. So we have lots of those kinds of gardens. But then we also have gardens where people are renting their own garden plots. And so we have a bunch of those that are connected with us. They're partners, and we can help people get connected with them so they can find out where there's plots available.
Okay. Okay. Now, also when you said community garden, where are you guys located in Kansas City?
Yeah, we're located in Sloat Park. A lot of people are familiar where the Nature Center is and the zoo and the Pet Project. We're right at there, 6917 Kensington.
Okay, now then here is what is your acre? How large is that?
We got 3 acres there, and so that's where we have our greenhouse. We grow all our vegetable plants there. We have a special children's garden, and then we also have rental plots. Okay.
So ideally, if I was a person just coming in, wanting to start off, what would be your suggestion, acreage-wise, I should start off with? And also, how much would it cost me to get started?
Well, I mean, many of the community gardens are small. They might be like just a couple of vacant lots together, and people are setting up with some raised beds. So there's a lot of those size gardens. But when people come to us, we just try to figure out where is the easiest place for them to get a garden plot at, either backyard or at a community site.
Well, we're being here, I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. One of the things here, we have an abundance of vacant lots. And
yes.
At a time, we probably have more lots available than being stored down to tear down a lot, get up houses and stuff. And that's going to create more space. So if a person had a lot next to their house, what would be their first step to kind of, sort of go out there?
Well, if it's a lot they own, obviously they can start right away. But if it's a lot that somebody else owns, they got to figure out who owns it and if they can get access to use it. I know in St. Louis, I've been there many times, have good friends there. They don't seem to have as many empty lots as we do in Kansas City. Kansas City has lots of empty lots. And you used to be able to buy them really cheap. So I'm guessing in St. Louis they probably cost a little more. But it's obviously worth it if you could make a nice garden that people can enjoy.
I know a lot of people around the St. Louis area, who have, as you ride around, especially North St. Louis, which is, well, not just North St. Louis, but you have a lot of, you see a lot of, small lots started off, and because with the price of food being what it is now, what are some of the normally easier things for a person to start off trying to grow?
I couldn't hear the last part of the question.
Okay, what are some of the things that would be easiest, like a person starting off and they not done it before, what would be some of the easiest things for them to try to do first?
Yeah, the easiest things are definitely peppers and tomatoes, and that's some of the stuff that's fairly expensive at the store. To price them per pound, even in the summer, you'd think the prices would get a whole lot cheaper at the store, but they don't. So they're still pretty expensive. Like a red pepper, it costs $1, $1.50, $2 even sometimes. But you can grow your own red pepper, and have a plant that will produce, 10 or 15, and so you can have all the red peppers you want, which is great.
I know you have different plants of season and things like that. And I'm a Green Card member as well as a community organizer for my particular organization. But I'm just saying, a lot of people getting started, and you have people from all groups that come out to the garden center. And I used to think that collard greens was we're not jumping you, Scott, but I used to think collard green was a southern dish. And only to found out they eat collard greens all over the world, but they just have different seasonings.
I love collard greens.
You say you love collard greens?
I say I love collard greens. A little bit of hot
Okay.
sauce, it's always good.
What about the chitterlings? Do you eat those too?
I haven't had chitterlings since I was in the service. But,
Okay. Now, being as you're talking Dutch cheese now, you know what he's talking about eating chitterlings?
Yeah, yep. I've never had them. I eat collard greens, but haven't had chitterlings.
Let me ask in a couple more questions. Okay. So now, if a person has a lot, and so what what kind of tools would a person need to sort their garden also?
Well, I mean, one of the things is, especially I would think in urban St. Louis, the difficulty would be that soil there might not be very good. Might be a lot of, bricks and things, and, from when the house was torn down. And so what's easiest, what we found, is to build raised beds. And we do that, we use lumber, we get soil mixed with compost, and use that to fill up the beds. And that makes it so much easier. Otherwise, you could just spend so much time trying to dig up the ground, and there might be lead problems there if you do that. So it is a good idea to get your soil tested just to kind of see if there is any problem with lead.
I know. In another life, I had a next-door neighbor. He'd been doing this for years, but he would raise cucumbers. He would raise tomatoes, naturally become green before they become red. And what I would do in my office, he would have so much, trying to keep up with it. So his red peppers, okay, were the hottest. And I'm not a red pepper fan, okay. But I would take them to the office, and supply them with the big old cucumbers, the tomatoes, the greens, I think like kale and stuff like that. That he would just, to get their fair share of. And I was also surprised that he also had sweet potatoes that he grew also.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. So all those things are things, when you have a garden and you're doing it right, you get a lot. And that's what's so great. And people share with their friends, they share with their neighbors, with food pantries. So you can produce a lot of those things. And that's why it's worthwhile to have your own garden.
Yeah,
sweet potatoes especially, they're really easy to grow.
Oh my God! And you have something, in the grocery store, you have to eat sweet potatoes, and the ones he was big up. I said, oh my God, they like something when they be 3 or 4 pounds a piece.
Yep.
And I was surprised, being honest with you, that when he dug up the sweet potato, I did not know. You see this little small plant on top of the ground. Okay. But then when he dug it up, I didn't know that the potatoes, most of them take place underground.
Yep, it grows into the ground. And so it's kind of fun. In September is the month when you dig them. And if you have children around, it's really fun for them to be involved because it's like digging for buried treasure. Dig them up, you find these potatoes. And sweet potatoes are so much better than regular potatoes because they're healthier for you, but also because they last so long. I mean, they will last for 9 months, 10 months, even a year. Wow. And still have all the nutrition.
A lot of times people say when they have sweet potatoes, they used to wrap them up in newspaper. What does that do?
I think they're just trying to keep them from drying out.
Okay.
Which I don't really think is a big problem. I think that's probably just kind of a tradition that people have done. You don't need to do that. It's more important just to keep them someplace where it's not too cold. A lot of times people think they need to be like in a cold root cellar or a cold garage or a refrigerator. And sweet potatoes are tropical, so they do not like that. They just prefer, room temperatures.
Being as a young man, I grew up in Bishop, Mississippi. In our backyard, we had a fig tree. We had a fig tree. There was another tree we had. And what my auntie would do, a peach tree. What she would do, okay, and I said we did it, because people were trying to steal the fruits. But also, she would in the winter time, we would do a process where she would make preserves and and then make bottles, put them in bottles, jars, I should say, not jars, bottles in jars. And for the whole winter time, she would kind of make a little side hustle, for lack of a better description, supplying the whole neighborhood, with peaches so you can feed our pigs.
Yeah, no, there's some really good preservation things. A lot of people have kind of lost the skill to do that canning type stuff. But the University Extension Service still teaches people how to do that, and you can do that. But also, freezing is really pretty easy. Things like peaches, cherries, berries, they all freeze really well. And even things like tomatoes and peppers and onions, you can freeze those so you can enjoy those, during the winter months.
I know my next door neighbor, my gosh, she had a big old freezer downstairs, and she was about for Christmas dinner, Christmas Eve, I should say, and she would have so much fresh stuff, that she had, frozen, during the summertime. Matter of fact, she had a whole freezer that was filled up, and matter of fact, I asked him, could I just rid stuff off the van, once you go to work. I said, can I have these? So, in my whole office, I was surprised them, and then as it turned out, the owner of the building, a guy named Robert, and Jesse Peterson, he started his own garden. And
oh, wow.
What he would do, he'd do different beans, kale, a whole lot of stuff like that. And what he would do, he would cook different soups. Little soups and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He would cook all types of stuff, for the staff, and just from the garden.
Well, let me interject this. We're talking about the Greater Kansas City Community Garden, but not limited to just Kansas City. Now, do you plant your own seeds to grow your plants, the tomatoes, okra is with the seeds, but the bell peppers, do you plant the seeds yourself for them to grow, and you harvest them out at the Greater Kansas City Community Center, and then you have them out different times of the year that it's time for a person to go out and start their garden? And you probably, a lot of people like to do a little garden in their front porch, or hang the doors down and grow tomato plants or what have you. But this has been, you said the Greater Kansas City Community Garden is in its 35th year?
Yeah.
Do you normally start out with just seeds to grow the plants before you put them out for people to buy?
So it depends on the plant. There are certain things that you just plant seeds straight in the ground. Think of things like beans and peas and corn and carrots and all that kind of stuff, radishes. But then there's other things that, because they take longer, if you plant the seeds in the ground, they would grow, but they wouldn't grow tomatoes in time, or they wouldn't grow peppers in time until frost, and you wouldn't get very much. So to get a jump on the season, we start the seeds in the greenhouse, usually in February and March, and that gives a jump, a head start, so that when May 1st rolls around, the time for planting those things, we've got plants that are ready to go.
I know we're talking about Mr. Auer. We're talking about being from Greenville, Mississippi, and a lot of people. My grandmother in Oklahoma, all throughout those areas, they had pressure cookers. But then years after that, people was kind of afraid to use pressure cookers because they're afraid they might blow up on you. But now they're so modern, all you do is hit a certain dial and it does. They're like, I would like to can. First, I want to use how to use a pressure cooker, but the food is so much better, quicker. And do you guys do anything connected with you, or you refer them to another agency who wanted to know anything about canning or using pressure cookers?
We generally refer them to the University Extension Service because they have all the real good instructions and regulations on that stuff. But as far as just regular cooking, we do a lot of cooking workshops. We have on our staff 2 or 3 people who are experts, nutritionists and cooks who can do things, and they do classes, especially with our school gardens, to teach them about easy recipes that people can make at their home, that kids can even make themselves. And so we have posted a lot of those videos online so people can just see how to make stuff. There's lots of times like people will get, if they're not familiar with collards, they have no idea what to do with them, or some of the other vegetables, like Swiss chard or whatever.
Well, first you said your website. What is how could a person get to the website?
Website is KCCG, which stands for Kansas City Community Gardens. So it's kccg.org.
And once they get there, how do they navigate? What would they find?
It'll tell them all about the resources that we have available, like the seeds and the plants. You can look up all the seeds and plants we have. But it'll also tell you if you want to start a community garden, what are your first steps. It'll have, also when we do our workshops, we teach our classes, we post all those videos there online, but then also all the cooking. And then there's lots of really short videos, like if you just want to know how to plant peas or how to plant sweet potato plants, you can look at that and just see it all right there.
Well, Ben, I noticed that you mentioned certain that was seasonal, and so we beyond this season right now where the frost would kind of do damage to your plants or to your to the whatever vegetable that you're growing.
Yep.
And so tell us a bit about that and how they can protect it. I know right now it's hot weather right now. Okay.
Yeah.
But I know my wife is, matter of fact, just recently, she got a green thumb now, and she got flower pots, she got a whole bunch, in my back. We were surprised that she had a big old, bowl pot, okay, that she picks up the bottom fell out. I guess, it was made out of clay. But she since has replaced those. So, what kind of pots would you suggest a person start off with stuff before they put it in the ground? How would that work out?
A lot of people, maybe they don't have very much space. Maybe they just got a little apartment or a little tiny place and there's too much shade, so they need to use containers. And we actually do a workshop on that. But you can use lots of different things for containers. The main thing that people often do is they use containers that are too small. And the problem is they dry out too quick. And so that can be a challenge. But if you have a good-sized container, like, you can even buy those storage tubs that they have, like at Walmart or wherever, and poke some holes in the bottom of that, fill it with a good potting mix. You can grow things in there quite easily. But you don't want to use just straight soil. You want to use the potting mix because it's lighter and it will drain better.
Yeah, I know my wife has several bags of soil that she's bought. And that she has, and matter of fact, she had a pretty good green thumb. I will give her that, and it's there's a lot of things are growing right now in the pot that she put them out on the front. Matter of fact, last year, probably for my birthday, she bought me a money tree.
Oh yeah.
And it was kind of funny. We had it in the house, and it was doing quite well. And last year, she was preparing, I guess it was last year for Thanksgiving, she invited some people over, for the holiday, and she moved the plant from where it was. And I guess maybe almost a week went by, they didn't like the old spot, and the tree almost died. And so...
Sometimes things like that can be temperamental, but it still is kind of fun to try and do stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, well, we were able to nurture it, okay, and put it back in its old spot for one.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, because we know that it like kind of, just enough sun, to be there, not too much sun. And I will say now, I think we got it back, because now it is growing at least, a couple inches off. We can see it's actually growing again.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great.
If you just tune in, you listen to a very special broadcast. Guess who's coming to Kansas City? We're talking about the Greater Kansas City Community Gardens. And I want to get into something else, but let's deal with this first. What's the difference between organic or using pesticide to grow your crops?
Okay. So, there are kind of like two ways to go, we tell people. And one is to use organic materials, and that doesn't mean you won't use pesticides. But it just means that if you do use a pesticide, it'll be one that's organic. And it means it's made from natural products. It's not a synthetic chemical. And the good thing about those is that they don't persist in the environment. So like when you spray an organic pesticide like pyrethrum or neem oil or something like that, it's only around for about 24 hours, and then it breaks down. So it helps control the pest, but then it's not around when you're going to be eating that food. which is a big problem with a lot of the pesticides that are used today because they persist in the environment. And those things are actually, other ones are a lot more dangerous for the people who are doing the spraying and for the people who are eating the food. So the organic pesticides we are a big fan of, and you just have to learn a little bit how they work and make sure that you do them in time and do them properly, and you can control most pests fairly easily.
Well, then I have a question for you, okay? You mentioned pesticides. I know here in St. Louis, we had a company that was named Monsanto, and it was getting sued by a lot of people, okay, because of some Roundup machines, but it would enhance the growth of different things in the farm, the bugs. And there were lawsuits were filed like crazy. And they're Ashland, with the company on the study, from the company, and now they're trying to phase out Roundup. Why is that?
They found that Roundup was used so heavily, and a lot of the people who used it came up with health problems. And that's the danger with synthetic pesticides is, they do some tests initially and it looks okay. They say, okay, this is safe to use. But then what they don't know is what happens when people are exposed for long periods of time. And then what happens then. So that's where the danger comes in. So that's why I just try to still clear that. When I went to college, we learned all about the synthetic pesticides, and I worked in the greenhouse and I worked in the nursery and came to the conclusion that I did not want to work someplace where I was going to be spraying that kind of stuff. And especially like lawns. People who have the people come out and treat their lawns, most of that is synthetic pesticides and dangerous stuff. And the lawn is where your kids are out there playing, your animals are out there, your pets. You do not want to be out there rolling around in that grass when it's been sprayed with weed killers. And I don't think a lot of people are aware of that. They just think, oh, it's the lawn care company, they know what they're doing, So there are some good organic lawn care companies out. You just got to look for them online and check them out. And that's definitely the way you're going to do if you need to do that. My lawn at home, I don't worry about weeds. I just mow it, and it is what it is.
Also, on that same token, you mentioned when you was in college, you didn't tell us what college you went to. I guess an agricultural type college.
University of Missouri, Columbia.
Yeah, that has a. You know about that, don't you? They have a tremendous thing as far as agriculture is concerned down University of Missouri in Columbia.
One of the better ones in the whole country.
Right.
Yes. Yep.
Do any people normally ask you guys, said they wanted to, like, I guess I'm throwing this back at Scott, because Buffalo get kind of cold. They might have their own greenhouses, okay? The same way they do up in Iceland. They used to have greenhouses. Is there any requests for that? You guys a system and how to put together a greenhouse? And how much space do you need for to have an effective greenhouse?
Well, that's all my head. I'm not going to lie to you.
I haven't been to Buffalo that much, so I don't know personally.
Well, I'm just saying Buffalo is known to be cold. That's what I was saying about the greenhouse. Oh, yeah. Also, they got them up in Iceland, too. Never been to Iceland, never wanted to go.
Well, but you can see greenhouses all over the world. I mean, first of all, they can control the growth or the harvest times with the greenhouse. So there's greenhouses everywhere.
Okay, good, man.
I was going to say, what we're seeing a lot of right now is what people call like high tunnels. Growers here in Missouri are using a lot of high tunnels. And it's not the same as a heated greenhouse, but it looks like a greenhouse. It's got plastic over it. And they'll use that unheated to grow greens over the winter. And then also get an early start on tomatoes, where they plant the tomatoes in the ground inside the high tunnel. And so, like, if you go to some of the farmers' markets, there's people who've been doing this, and so they're doing it. And that's a very sustainable form of greenhouse because it doesn't use a lot of energy, and it just allows the food to be grown locally. You get tomatoes a lot sooner that way. It's not so much for a homeowner because they're they're a little big and difficult to take care of. But it's great that you can go to the farmers markets here and get fresh tomatoes earlier because of that.
Well, I just heard on the news that farmers market has opened down the city market here in Kansas City, and I think that run maybe 7 or 8 months or whatever. And a lot of people go down there and get the people come from all over selling their goods and products.
Yep. No, it's great.
We got something like that here in St. Louis called Sula Market, man. You've been there before, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And it's been around a long time, and you have people who come in. Most times it's open year-round. But again, I had for you, I want to get in here. We come down, it's sort of like whole food, and you hear people saying it's organic, okay? You go to the store, it costs more. Why is that?
There's a couple reasons. One is usually the people who are growing organic is smaller scale. It's the smaller growers, it's the local people. And so, they don't have giant tractors. They're not hiring, illegal labor. They're, smaller farms. So their scale is not going to be as big. And so, they have to charge a little more. But that's why so it's great in the sense that you can get local food and it's organic. But also, if you're a gardener, you can grow this stuff in your backyard, and it's so much cheaper, especially with food prices right now.
Yes, because right now, being a lot of the grocery stores, you go in, the shelves are empty in some cases. Yeah,
I've seen it. Like I was looking to buy some snow peas the other day because I wanted to make a stir fry. They didn't have any snow peas, so I wished I had planted some. So next year I'm going to work on that.
Well, I guess that's the thing nowadays, okay, with all these shortages, of different things, if you're a gardener now, you can probably supply, I know around here in St. Louis, I have a cousin that has his garden, okay, what he does also, he has some sheep, okay, that he have that also, cuts the grass for him. In his community garden.
Yeah. I know a lot of people are doing animal production so you can have fresh organic meat for sale, which is great also.
Yeah, but I guess at the end of the day, with the crisis, not this crisis, with importing and shipping and stuff being what it is, have you also seen an uptick now in community gardening?
Definitely. We saw the beginning of the uptick just with the pandemic starting, back in 2020. A lot of people were just concerned and wanted to start growing their own food. They were home. They had more time. So we saw a lot of that then. And now people are starting to do it more just because of the prices. So definitely seen an uptick this year, and we expect it to continue.
So I know right now, my wife cooks potato pies, and when she goes to the store, those prices are almost double in some cases.
I don't know what your wife's potato pies taste like. She's going to have to prove it to me.
Stockings vouch for it.
I will definitely vouch for his his wife's sweet potato pies.
I tell you, sweet potatoes, besides sweet potato pies, there's many things you can do with them. You can make casseroles, you can make fries, you can make cookies and muffins.
Mm-hmm.
And I know George Washington Carver is famous for doing things with peanuts, but he also did a lot with sweet potatoes.
Right.
So he was encouraging people to grow sweet potatoes just because they're so healthy and so productive.
Well, what is the difference between a sweet potato and a yam?
Okay, so a true yam is something that is grown generally in Africa or in the tropics somewhere, and it's it's larger than any sweet, usually bigger than a football.
Wow.
And they aren't sweet. They're very starchy, and most people, myself included, have never seen one because they don't have them in grocery stores here.
Oh.
And they're not that great. But what happened is when they came, I forget where they saw them originally. I think they came out of South America, and then they went to Africa, and then they made their way over here. And, people, they look kind of like with the yams in Africa, and so they call them yams. But they aren't true yams. And so when you buy canned yams, you're just getting sweet potatoes. So in this country, generally, it just means another name for sweet potatoes.
But I also have yet to see a yam, okay, but people say, you know, and they're talking about, you know, yams, and I'm a person, you know, who knows, well, you know how a sweet potato looks off the ground, okay, but I don't saw anybody, you know, raise a yam any place, you know, in my life.
So yeah, I mean, the true yam is generally got to be tropical. You couldn't grow here because the season was on it. But the sweet potatoes, you can grow anywhere here, even farther north to like, you know, Iowa and places like that. You get up to Minnesota, it's a little too cool. You don't have enough time because they do like the warm weather, and it takes a long time to get your sweet potatoes.
Well, let's get back to the grocery stores where they say, like they have sugar-free items in the can. They say no salt added. They don't say they don't have salt. They say no salt added. And this is a lot of people they don't have to deal with that when they do their own gardening and in their backyard or a neighbor's yard. They can kind of handle that and the canning aspect of it, and it's a good thing for really to get the kids involved in how to can, how to manage the garden. That's tougher than how you plant the seeds.
Yep. I know the other thing, it's also true with sugar, is that, you know, pretty much you buy so many products that have a lot of sugar added. But if you're trying to control your diet, how much sugar intake, sugar and salt, you can do that so much better when you're growing your own food.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I would be remiss, okay, because here in Missouri, a plant that's been a big debate is marijuana farming nowadays. You know, for medical reasons and for farming reasons. How, what is it? How would that reflect the community growing? Is it because of legal? Was it allowed to grow their own marijuana? How would that work out?
Well, yeah. So right now it's not legal for people just to grow their own,
right.
And so that's why we're definitely not encouraging that. But also, it's not really our mission for that. I know there's medicine that can help some people significantly, and I understand that. But it also can be something that's dangerous for people who misuse it, and that's a problem too. Always, yes. So really, we probably will never be involved with that, just because we're trying to help people grow food that they need to eat, you know, to live. So that's really our mission.
They've been in the Jeff City, been all type of debate back and forth, centers around the cities and stuff. So I just thought was something that came up. Now let me ask you another question, Ben. If a person want to come into a community store, how much should they be expected to spend on a normal basis?
If they come where?
Look, a community store, they come into the store, want to get started on that.
At community gardens, you mean? Okay.
It's total community garden.
Yeah. So if you're a low-income household, and we use some income guidelines from the city of Kansas City, Missouri, for low-income households, your membership will cost you $2, and that gets you 10 packs of seeds, gets you a sack of fertilizer, and then you can buy vegetable plants for a 3-pack, 3 of them for 50 cents. So very, very affordable. So you might only spend, $15 max if you buy some plants and maybe a bale of straw for mulch and like that. So really, $10, $15 would be all you need to spend, and you can, have a really nice garden for that.
Well, how do you use your fertilizer? You mentioned the word fertilizer. How does that play into the garden?
So they get a free bag with their membership, and that chicken manure fertilizer, it's just been processed. It's pelletized, so it's been composted, it's dry, it's safe to handle, and you just sprinkle it out over the ground. Take a rake and kind of lightly scratch it in after you did your tilling, or you can just sprinkle it down the row next to the plant once they start growing a little bit, and it's just really easy to use.
Okay, now, naturally this time of year, the ants sort of pop up different places. How can you protect, your vegetables, especially your greens, and start growing sometimes, different bugs, is that common or uncommon in the Missouri area?
You mean like protect from insects?
Right, yes, insect protection.
Yeah. One thing is just to be aware of which insects are out there, and that's one of the classes we do. We teach people about because usually insects will pick on a particular crop. Like you grow cabbage and collards and broccoli, they're all in the same family, and kale. And so they get attacked by these white butterflies, fly around, and they lay eggs, and they turn into little cabbage worms. And they will chomp on your collards, your kale, your broccoli, your cabbage. And so there's a couple of organic pesticides that are really easy to use that control those. So that's part of it, is just knowing what to expect. If you're going to grow cabbage, going to grow collards, you're going to have that problem. But you can deal with it once you start seeing it start to happen.
Well, another way is that cayenne pepper and flour, you can get, but every time it rains, you're going to have to redo your plant, your collard greens. But that's the way, because you see these white butterflies flying all around, and they plant their eggs or on the back of the collard greens. And a lot of people, that's one of the biggest things. But people say, like we have the Restaurant Depot here, where you go there, you buy, I guess, a bushel of collard greens, a bushel of spinach, or whatever. And it's somehow, I guess, where they grow them, they don't get all that different type of insects or they treat them better, I would think. But on the same token, go ahead.
I think they do. They do. They have the same problem. But they would be probably regularly using synthetic pesticides to keep them, under perfect control.
Okay. Now, you went to MU, okay, down there, but also, like Lincoln University, that's a land grant college.
Yep.
Harris Stove up in St. Louis, land grant. And we're trying to get people from Langston, land grant. Well, when I was in Oklahoma, they got, a lot of people, Oklahoma from Langston. Well, at one time, the government paid them X amount of money or goats to farm on it. Then they say goats are bad on where you got a regular cow pasture, okay? Because they said goats need them. In normal time, the goats, I don't know why, they destroy Christmas trees after people get through using them.
Yeah.
But how do you work in conjunction with land grant colleges like Lincoln University and Harris Stove in St. Louis?
We do work with Lincoln University. One of our board members is an employee of Lincoln University, Tina Worth. She does a lot with gardening here in Kansas City and is a big supporter of community gardens. And, of course, Lincoln University is doing lots of research on sustainable agriculture, which is helpful. So they're definitely a big partner for people who are trying to grow, their own gardens.
You mentioned research, Dan, but here in St. Louis, we have the Danforth Institute, and they're doing a whole lot of along those lines, for the research and stuff, and I guess organic and stuff like that. You worked with them in the past.
They have done a fair amount of research. I mean, back in the day, they didn't do hardly any research on organic stuff, but now they're looking at that a lot more, and we're seeing lots of more useful organic research happening at the land-grant universities, both MU and Lincoln and other ones.
I know our time goes by so quickly when we're having fun, but on the same token, we're talking about, you also got a point where people can get fruit trees. Like I got a couple of the Asian pear trees that they kind of, the insects frown to mess with them, okay? I hope so. I come back in the backyard being planted. But do you get any call for, I know it's a different department out there, call for dwarf fruit trees?
Yes. A lot of people are interested in fruit trees, and of course we wanted to use dwarfs whenever it's feasible. So we have a program called the Giving Grove, and they help, just like you have community gardens, they help establish community orchards. So we have 4 people on our Giving Grove staff that work with community groups that want to start an orchard, and they'll help you figure it out. They'll teach you how to do it, which is a little tricky, because again, that organic thing is a little tricky with fruit. Because I don't know if you're aware, but like if you go to a regular apple orchard, they spray that apple orchard once a week for 20 weeks throughout the season. And it's a lot of pesticides. So if you can do that organically, you still do some organic sprays, but not near as many, and they're also not toxic to people and the environment.
Look at one last question, my neighbor, I noticed he had a problem trying to grow corn. Is that more difficult to grow in a community garden?
It could be a challenge, but if you want to do it, you certainly can. A lot of people have not had experience growing corn, but once you learn how to do it, it's really not that difficult. A lot of people think you're going to get a lot of corn, but you can get a nice little patch of corn. If you have something like 4 by 5 feet, you can end up with 20 years of corn, and that's great, So you can plant 2 or 3 batches like that and have a lot of nice corn, sweet corn, and I tell you, fresh sweet corn is like fresh tomatoes.
Yes.
Homegrown is so much better than what you get in the store.
I can say this to you, Aaron, you, Ben, and you, Scott. Back in the day, I used to grow popcorn.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we sell popcorn seeds. You can get those at the community garden, too. And lots of families want to do it for fun because it's great for kids to see. Yeah, there's different kinds of corn. Native Americans developed different kinds of corns for different purposes. So there's sweet corns, of course, there's popcorn, and then there's field corn, which they use to feed animals, but also to like make cornmeal and cornbread and taco chips and all that stuff.
I know we're about out of town, but we want Ben. We appreciate you being on the show. I think we do this annually. Just tell people what they can do, who they talk to, you can give them the 800 number or whatever, and want to get more people involved in doing their own gardens.
Yep. So yeah, if you look at our website, that'll give you a big dose of information about the community gardens and the different programs like the Give and Grow, the Children's Garden, School Gardens, Community Partner Gardens, and Home Gardens. They'll tell you all about that, and so that's www.kccg.org, or the simple way is if you just Google Kansas City Community Gardens, it'll pop up right away, real easy. And just do a search for that. And then also just come visit Float Park. You were there this week, and just tell people, drop in and visit us during the summer and see the gardens and see what's going on. And, even if you're not going to have a garden right away, you can learn more about it and see the beautiful garden that we have.
I've never seen out there, so they're big in size, is a live groundhog.
Oh, my gosh. They are big.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I never seen. Now, of course, I see them on TV every February 2nd, But on the same token, we appreciate you being a guest on the show, and hopefully, I want to throw this out. The young lady, it wasn't her fault she went to Central High School, but I met her out there the other day, and so I'm very braggadocious about Lincoln High School, my high school, okay? But it's a guy named Harry Williams. He's a lone person with the bloodstone, and if she could find out how to reach him, we'd like to recognize him sometime in September. But Ara, how can we get you connected up with more people? And I know your wife would love to have a patch so she can grow her own sweet potatoes, right?
Well, right now she's happy with the plants, okay?
Okay.
Although we do have a space, okay, but right now she's like going to the store, get them little plants, and put them in our...
Oh, okay.
Matter of fact, she has about 8 flower pots down right of our driveway. Scott, come up to the walkway to the house, on our porch. She got flower pots up there, 4 beds, and about 4 or 5 going down toward the driveway.
That's another thing, Ben. A lot of people use a little flower pot to grow it on their porch or in their front yard, where that's where they manufacture gardens.
Yep, absolutely. Any space you can find, whatever works for you.
Now, do you have a number, 800 number, another number people can call? I know you mentioned the website.
Yeah, so it's not 800 number, but, most people have cell phones. You can call it 816-931-3877. But I tell you, this time of year we're so busy, you're probably better off looking at the website and then emailing us. You could just send an email to contact@kccg.org if you have a question or you want to find out more information, and we can help connect you with resources.
Oh, I know you have some questions still.
Well, no. I didn't greatly enhance, not information-wise. About I didn't think I had that many questions until we started talking here, but I information about the garden and how to start one and also all the benefits of it.
Well, Kansas City.
And also you put together a lot of myths also, by the way.
What about that? You gotta give me a sweet potato pie or what?
I'm gonna get you sweet potato pie. See if I come again. I got you. As a matter of fact, yours is in the freezer right now.
Is that right? Ben, we want to thank you for taking this time off your busy Saturday. Or were you that busy today?
I'm pretty busy. In fact, I was doing a little gardening while we were talking on the phone.
Okay.
But yes, thank you for inviting me. Always a pleasure.
All right. Scott, do you have anything you want to say?
No, sir. Everybody have a great week.
Likewise.
Scott, do you want to ask them if you can grow plants while you're on your motorcycle or what?
I don't have much room on the motorcycle to grow plants.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and we got something on happen with the Kansas City Chiefs on that is September the 15th. Well, the Chiefs will play the LA Chargers here in Kansas City, and hopefully the people who got the TVs or whatever stay tuned in to go Chiefs, and hopefully they'll do something this year besides letting the Cincinnati Bengals beat them. Thank y'all very much for joining us.
Life is good. Keep on your face, man.